bunch of all, like, the gaming houses, like the pro gaming houses. Like the one from, like 100 Thieves or something like that. And then there was another one that I thought was just, like, much worse. Anyways. They called them gaming complexes. And I'm actually gonna look up whose video it was, because I thought it was actually quite funny. I'm absolutely late to the train, though. Many of you are gonna be like, of course everyone knows that guy and has watched that video. You're so dumb. I'm a real boomer when it comes to this type of stuff. Just totally in on the StarCraft side of things, and then everything else is, like, kind of hazy in the background, you know? Is that Liara in the background? Is indeed. Her energy hand fell off again, though, so I have to re-glue it on. No doubt my cat knocked it, so it fell off. Let's actually talk about the game for 1 second. Bottom left, MaxPax. Top right, Clem. On inside and outs. At this point, Clem, his nemesis, is MaxPax. Not the other way around, which you might expect if you haven't been paying attention to these open cups. No, MaxPax has actually been dominating Clem recently. So, a lot of 3-2s back and forth, but the last 3 or 4, I want to say, ended in favor of MaxPax. And then last week, I believe, was the chilling 3-0, if I remember correctly, for MaxPax to gain victory over Clem. So Clem is just hard stuck against MaxPax right now. His style, I think, is really what's setting Clem off, because I don't think Clem's TvP is all that bad, but MaxPax has figured out the appropriate ways to, I think, abuse Protoss in the best way possible, guys, because I think he's always been so full of potential as far as abusing their race goes in this matchup, but a lot of his openers would kind of hold him back, and now it just seems like he's figured it out. He knows what really gets the Terrans salty and frustrated and abuses it. JonTron, there you go, Pro Gamer Compounds. It was like, I forget exactly how he put it, but it was well done, where he's like, and we all know that compounds have always been a fantastic idea, and then he shows the Waco compound. And I thought it was really well done. Alright, so now that you guys know, you guys can look it up, because it is, I think, one of his most recent videos, so maybe you haven't checked it out yet. It's pretty funny. I think he chose the wrong game to get rich by. You know, back in 2011, that was arguable. If if StarCraft 2 had carried on the trajectory like Dota, League of Legends, and CSGO did around 2012, then I think I'd be pretty comfortable, actually. If I was also still, like, you know, one of the top casters in the esport. But as we know, that it did not. And then, despite how fancy and amazing people's lives looked back in 2010 and 11, they were being paid absolutely disgusting low amounts of money, if any money at all. This is starting to get complicated. I was prepared to just do a quick overview, because it looked like the second stalker, or the first stalker actually, was going to die. But it just barely didn't. Instead, the Reaper died. Now it's gonna die. Ah! Yeah, there you go. Very, very close. But yes, so that does still get cleaned up, but the Reaper dying kind of sucks. Clem doesn't have that follow-up scout. Presumably it is a Stargate because of the weird third nexus. A lot of the times you would see a Protoss do this. They'd admit defeat when it comes to engineering bay block and go, okay, whatever, man, let's take the third base. They will go Stargate to help cover it. The mobility and, I think, general defensive flexibility that a Stargate has really, it was the build of choice back when this was first starting to become a really big deal. I think Mara was doing it a whole lot, and Parting just started to respond to the Stargate. But not in this case. MaxPax just did his normal stuff. Went up to Blink, getting 4 gateways in total. I'm gonna 4-gate Blink good old Clem here. What am I drop? Really should not be that big of a deal, but yet here we have it, being kind of a big deal. 6 probes go down, both Widowmines will survive. And they're gonna come in later at a very inopportune time when MaxPax is trying to micro his heart out. So this is a good start for Clem. Now, He still doesn't know exactly what the build is, but he's seeing a notable lack of Stargate units. No Oracle showed up, no Phoenix coming around. Try and get this medevac, and, you know, no Void Ray, that makes sense. He's seeing a single gateway at his opponent's, you know, third base, which is really his natural, but the reason I'm emphasizing this is because it's not helping to wall. It just is there, which I don't know if it's like a little suspicious or not. Point is, the puzzle is still incomplete, but if you add in the fact that it's MaxPax, you should just guess. You don't have the box anymore, you lost the box, you have no idea what the final puzzle's supposed to be, but you can just kind of guess that it's a bunch of cats over yarn, because that's like a billion puzzles, right? So in this case, you can just kind of guess it's 4-gate, which Clem was preparing for. Not full-on hardcore preparing, like a bunch of bunkers like we saw Spirit do, but still playing it very safe with a bunker, pre-pulled SCVs, tank very far back, so if he does blink up to the main, he'd have to blink again or move forward again. So far, so good, but things have not peaked yet for the Protoss's power. Couldn't do more alliteration than that, that's all I got. There's a few more Stalkers, and that'll be kind of peak moment. So 2 Stalkers have died, many are injured. MaxPax did overall lose 10 probes, the Little Mine Drop 4 finally clearing that up. And that has significantly weakened this push, actually. I think so. I think he's 1-2 less Stalkers, which, I don't know, significantly weakened is a big thing to say. It has meant less Stalkers warped in, which I don't think it would have actually made the biggest of differences right here, right now. Killing the bunker, killing the tank, great things to do, but did not get the Raven. Still, Marines were shooting on him the entire time, so he had to sacrifice a lot of Stalkers to stick around there. And then a bunker number 2 was actually being built kind of during the chaos, so it's already back up and running. So I don't know if 2 Stalkers actually would have changed that. I don't think so. But maybe it's not 2 more Stalkers. Perhaps it is a faster follow-up, trying to get to the Nexus with, you know, 10 more probes mining continuously. That probably happens 30 seconds sooner, right? Something like that. Someone do the math. Which means that what is already a very sketchy follow-up to this build, unless it does a lot of damage, is now even sketchier. So MaxPax has got to figure his way out of this one. Gets 2 SCVs, but loses 2 of the Stalkers, so that wasn't very good. And Clem is building his 3rd CC, but properly protected, so really can't delay that. And then maybe just wait for the Terran push. The Terran pushes, MaxPax will have charge, a couple of force fields, a couple of shield batteries, but I do not believe he'll have an upgrade. Certainly no additional technology like Colossus or Storm, or even just Archons in general. Which means his army is quite bad against upgraded bio. It's not exactly paper, because charge lots are still kind of tanky, but they're certainly not dependable. They get kited, they die, Stalkers go, oh shit, try to run away, and then bios are on top of them. So that's how it should go. But MaxPax has been weirdly clever / annoying, depending on your perspective, for how to actually make stuff like this end up looking okay. Already losing control of his main base, though. That actually convinces me that Clem's gonna win, actually. Before the drop of the main base, not only killed 17 probes, which is huge, but then also forced the recall of the Stalkers. I was waiting in anticipation of MaxPax showing us how to make this comeback happen. Because I do think it was a comeback, but now it's like an insane comeback if it happens. Completely crazy, never should happen. After that much damage done, War Prism was shot down by a Viking as well. Clem has no reason to lose this game. There's nothing particularly tricky that's coming out now. The Stalkers kind of got back on the map, but, you know, Corner's not really, only delaying this by so much. This is without medevacs, though, so maybe a little overeager. As the game finishes, apparently my mother is handing me a package. I know what it is. I think it's my Dragon Ball Z themed fitness wall hanging that I'm gonna put down in my gym. Maybe I'll show you guys. So yeah, while that was happening, I assume that Clem was winning the battle. Yes? Okay, great. Great job casting, guys. You too can follow the action. But yeah, I've been setting it up for a while that Clem is supposed to win, barring any, I don't even know if significant miss micro would have done it. It was a little sketch to maybe move in like he did without the medevacs, and the tank, you know, siege up as it was under attack. That's usually not so good for a Terran engagement, but he was so far ahead that those tiny little things were really quite tiny. And now that everything is here all together, racing into the natural, MaxPax can go for one last hurrah and then tap out. Trying to come from multiple angles, trying to get a little run by going with his warp prism. It's all good ideas, but you can't actually get any execution without units. You can have it all in your brain exactly what to do, but you're not gonna win if you have 6 zealots to 30 marauders. GG. Bet everything on Clem, and then ZG tells me that MaxPax been dominating Clem recently. It seems like the tables have turned. Clem played that out pretty perfectly. Now that, I think there's a bit of luck involved with how perfect that ended up being for Clem, as far as the, like, the warp prism being shot down. Maybe that comes in from a different direction. The Viking doesn't shoot it down. It's still a threat out there. Actually, that's kind of it. Because I do think that Clem played perfectly in terms of defense against the Stalkers. I think that was pretty much, there's nothing to be said there that was really doable for MaxPax. I don't know what else he could have done. It was pretty locked up. So I don't think that had anything to do with luck. But then the follow-ups that can happen with MaxPax, that's it. Literally, last week, I think, Clem started off game 1 in a similarly dominant fashion. Like, okay, he's not going to get tricked this time. And then he did kind of, you know, get the Warp Prism, and then the Stalkers, and then the, you know, stuff happened, and MaxPax ended up winning that game. So that's why I was like, well, maybe if the Warp Prism was still alive and did little more damage, maybe if it came in from the backside first and cleared out the engagement prior to those medevacs joining up, or helped to clean it up, and it actually did get cleaned up, there's a little bit more wiggle room. That's what I was thinking, like, might actually set just put the Terran on the defensive once again, trying to think of all the things that could go wrong. But what happened was just like a perfect response. War Prism, perfectly predicted. Stalker usage, also perfectly predicted. Figured he could get that medevac into the main base and do a tremendous amount of damage, or at least force a recall. Like that, the follow-up, I think, is really what was missing from some of the games they played last week from Clem. Clem's follow-up was trying to make sure everything was locked down, tight, and then it just let a couple of things slip. Not that game. Let's see what second game will look like. Going to Cosmic... nope, Cosmic Sapphire. It's like Cosmic Atmosphere. It's 2,000 atmospheres and Cosmic Sapphire mixed together. Which I guess would just mean, like, people would float on this map, if that was the case. Bottom right's Clem. Oh. Top left it is MaxPax. I don't know what happened to the rules for this tournament. But I know Roddy has been having his camera on the overlay, so figure I can have my cat cam on the overlay too. And for anyone who would prefer to see me and my face on the overlay casting games instead of a cat, well, you're crazy. You should be more excited to see a cat. I'm more of a dog person, though. Get out of my chat. Get out. One max expand from Clem, and MaxPax is going for a forward wall off. Now, again, I'd said this earlier, so I'll reiterate. If you see this as a Terran player, you can be a little suspicious of a fast Zealot, but presumably you would have the same unit that scouted the forward gateway still scouting for something producing from the gateway. So, you don't see anything until the Cyberx finishes, not a problem. And Clem is bothering to SCV scout while he does go into a 1 Marine reactor follow-up. MaxPax was not planning over for the Zealot. This map does have a 2-building wall-off. So this would, whatever unit goes in here would perfectly wall off. Which kind of makes it tempting in even this matchup to go for a wall-off. Wall-offs in this matchup can sometimes be tricky. If you are up against someone who's tank pushing you, and on special maps too, it can be really annoying. Like, I think Moondance actually is very annoying to have a wall there. So often the Terran will tank push to hit, you know, both bases, plus the natural. But in this case, I think it is just so tempting. It's only 2 buildings that are used, although one is a very important building. And then does still provide a little bit of that forward aggression. The units will come out to the other side of the map faster since they started off closer to the other side of the map. And MaxPax is, yet again, trying to kind of utilize that, right? So, just barely stalling out the command center. Good lord, it's so annoying. And even escaping with one of the Adepts is kind of nice. Saw that it was a Hellion opener and might be a little suspicious of a proxy starport, but the map being as gigantic as it is, and the starport not being in a very common location, means that it's very unlikely it's going to be scouted. Starports generally put in positions where the medevac can head into the main base or natural as fast as possible, so exactly where MaxPax is looking, right? But actually, this one is more like if it was just a proxy gateway, for instance. Then it wouldn't really matter where it's placed, as long as its intended target, which is usually just running into the natural, would work out. So, in this case, medevac isn't coming in from the very far left, but it's not like there would be anything to stop it anyways. So, this game might be over. 3 Hellions still 1 shot, just a matter of getting a decent lineup. I was gonna say, if it's more than 15 probes, I think the game is over. It's less, though. It's 12 probes going down, but medevac and Hellions living. That's a bit sketch. Also, full scout on what MaxPax is doing, so 2 gateways in the main and a gateway in the natural, so a total of 3 gateways. Means that it wasn't planning on being a super dedicated 4-gate, right? But it can be used to be aggressive. And after taking that amount of damage, one could assume that they would then try to do counter damage. Because 1, they need to do something. They can't just live with that until like, okay, fair enough, you got me. And then 2, they did bother producing those Hellions. Something has been delayed in the rest of their build, something that's a little more concrete than Hellions that would die to Stalkers. And the starport was a proxy, so... Again, nothing coming out of that, like a Liberator that's gonna backstab you. So, MaxPax is gonna try and actually make this one work. But it is gonna be difficult. Very difficult indeed. Not gonna break the bunker, goes for the Cyclone instead. Good save from Clem on the Cyclone. I can repair that up as well. Tank's still in the high ground, very patiently awaiting any potential redirecting of the push. And a second tank is now out, helping the natural. Clem not pulling away from the bunker is bad. Gonna repair it as fast as possible. For the plebs out there, auto repair might have been fine, but you do want to be really careful about using auto repair, because they would have all left to repair this medevac, for instance, so you gotta be very careful. Oh, a little bit of a supply block going on. Even the pros make mistakes. Some SimCity did help make that blink a little bit more awkward. 1 more tank shot because of it. Viking on top of the Warp Prism does get its hull health injured. And then the Stalkers get corralled into the corner, which means that they will have to just blink for their lives. Which they do. Most of them survive. Only 1 Stalker has died. So, I mean, as far as the actual Stalker action here, it's kind of impressive. But the rest of the game, everything else that happens while we're watching this unfold, is still not going all that hot from MaxPax. Their Nexus is just a little over halfway done. Charge only just started. It's really fast upgrade, so that will be done in time to help with a push, but these are the beginnings of a follow-up. So again, no Temple Archives, no Forge, no Robotics Bay. And now losing another soccer? No, wow, still keeping them all alive. At least saves again all the stalkers, so some more little bits of damage. Trying to do anything he can. Server in the main base is going to see 2 tanks set up, which not worth it. Even if he killed both tanks, it'd be at a severe loss of his stalkers, and there's now a growing number of bio units. So MaxPax, I think it's time to be just as risky VD as possible. He spent a lot of money actually dedicating to a push like this, so in total 14 stalkers were created. Again, awesome retention on the stalkers, but it still sucks that he did all of that and was unsuccessful in doing damage to his opponent. Without losing 3 stalkers. There you go. And many of them still very injured. And what has he got while keeping up the pressure, keeping up the oppression? Third Nexus completely saturated. That's something. But all else he's got is a charge and Blink Stalkers. Injured Blink Stalkers that you're not really eager to replace because they're so expensive. And Zealots that's in higher numbers. This will be very scary. And it looks like Clem did scan the natural, saw the number of charge lots, and was like, I can wait. I can wait. Which he can wait. But the longer the game goes, the more opportunity for comebacks. Sometimes the opposite's also true. Like if you attack too hard, too fast, the guy's still on the power spike and you die that way too. But still, the longer the game goes, the more there's opportunities for MaxPax to get aggressive, get a Warp Prism, get DTs, be insanely greedy while presenting an aggressive front as well. Can be a real bother for Terrans because in their perspective a lot of the time they're like, well, I'm defending everything, so what's the problem? But then it says the Protoss is actually macroing really hard. And in this case, beautiful 1-2 maneuver from MaxPax gives him a supply lead. Still doesn't actually get him super far ahead in the game. Or the Warp Prism actually get into the main. That's a big problem. Viking, you are fired. And it kills 14 SCVs, maybe a few more actually, as they're pulled in to help the reinforcements. Marauder gets sliced at the last second, and there's a total of 16 SCVs that have been killed. That wombo combo was pretty perfect, and MaxPax was even mindful enough to get the hell out of there once he actually did the damage he needed. Wasn't going to overstay his welcome, potentially throw this lead he's given himself. So he's up 23 workers. He's getting to Colossus. His army might still be a little vulnerable. He's got to be careful with how he plays with it, but it is now good enough. I guess it's not all-encompassing. It's not a perfect Protoss army, but it is good enough, I think, that if in a proper position, across from a shield battery, basically, not split up, it should be okay. And that sucks for Clem, who was once again trying to lock things down, play it safe and smart, but MaxPax was kind of picking up on some of the things, like, okay, there's going to be one drop. He went and actually found it, maybe a bit coincidentally, at the Xel'Naga, got rid of that. And then the Warp Prism, well, this is so much dead space, it was kind of more likely than not it would get in, but the fact that it got in so healthy, able to, spread out and actually warp stuff in is kind of the worst thing about that. Not just drop off for Zealots. But speaking of bad things, the Colossus in the main is not actually saved. Looks like MaxPax was hoping to utilize its high ground, low ground, and instead the Colossus was like, well, I'll go this way. Thanks, Colossus. So that's one Colossus dead. Pylons are going down. Stalkers are going down as well, actually. MaxPax, I mean, I guess I kind of predicted this. If his army was all together around a shield battery, I think he would have been fine. But disconnected as it was, things turned sour very, very quickly. Now he only has 2 Colossus, and I'm not even sure where the second one is. Just popped. Not rallied to that front lines yet, which actually is very scary. I think it's gotta be on the front. Right now. Okay, it's going. It's a coming, but that's a lot of bio. Almost a 30 army supply lead with an upgrade lead as well. Thankfully, extended thermal lance did just finish, giving a couple more shots to the Colossus before they get maybe pounced upon, maybe. Clem, I could see a pounce, actually, from the army that he has. I could, but I do think it would be one of the dangerous ways, more dangerous ways to play this out. So he lets that go, he lets that be. Goes for a drop, and then decides not to go for a drop. In case it's found, basically. He doesn't know about the observer. Or he might be looking for it now. Like zooming in and stuff, but... Or he doesn't. But it still doesn't... It kind of doesn't matter. The point is that it's not snipeable from MaxPax. It's not just simple as having 4 stalkers try and take down both medevacs. It's unloaded. So he still has to leave army to take care of it, which is exactly what he did, but means that he didn't have enough army on the left side. So the left side gets broken, and that, plus the main base in the drop in the main base, sorry, is gonna be enough damage. A lot of weak Marauders, so the Colossus might come in here and get a lot of those kills, but the Nexus will go down, and some of the units will escape. Okay. Oh, the Woodbine Field! Oh my god! Oh my god, he was actually so close to at least saving all of his probes. He was so close to saving all of his probes. I didn't realize the minefield was that close. Oh, that sucks. Because, you know, if he's still at 60 workers... No, 70 workers. If he's still at 70 workers... I mean, it's still a bad scenario for him, but I really think that is recoverable. That is, okay, this sucks. You're going to long distance mine, and I'm already long distance mining. I'm already oversaturated, but at least when my Nexus does get up and running, I'll be very instantly saturated. Well, not anymore. Water mines this time at least are split against, but they're not being discovered. No observer on the front lines quite yet. And actually, while one is coming forward, it looks like Clem is not... It's not shy about engaging.
You are doing something right.
He still has that upgrade lead. Decent amount of medevacs, fully healthy Marauders. It's kind of a small Terran army though, so I would be a little suspicious. And he scans again and sees that reinforcements have arrived, so now it really is no longer tango time. Just back away, back away. Thank you, Uncle Toby, for the 20 months. Observer's gonna see the presence of Widow Mines, be able to take care of those. And Clem is definitely on the back foot. He's down about 15 army supply. The EMPs take out the sentries from helping at the very least, but also need to hit those zealots. So far they have not. The Ghost is out of energy. SCVs kind of being pulled in, sometimes not. Yes, they are going to get pulled in, and this is Clem's last stand. If he holds here, he might just be able to win the game. If not, he might be completely broken, and it seems like he might be getting broken, but the presence of a Warp Prism allowing more instant reinforcements, I think Clem is forced to not just disengage, but might be forced to tap out. MaxPax is working off of fumes on the economy, by the way, guys. Says probe count may not seem that bad, but it is almost all on one base. But the fumes are just barely enough. Like chugga to the gas station. Just a couple of feet within reach. And the planetary is kind of a no-go zone, so he's going to enter into the natural. Knowing that there could be a lot of reinforcements on that high ground. Knowing there could be more of a surround as well, should he try and go into the high ground. But so far, just abusing even Clem's own SimCity. Some snipes, whatever you can get coming down. Maybe another EMP on top of the Zealots. There you go, but it's, you know, it's a baby EMP. Not nearly as effective. War Prism, still up and running, is probably the biggest deal out of everything. If this War Prism wasn't around, there are like 12, 14 less Zealots, and now 4 or 5 less Stalkers. I think Clem could hold. But everything combined together, even without those upgrades, and Clem now being on 2-2, is not going to be enough. MaxPax, with the Hail Mary counter, is able to win the game. What does one need to do against Prisms as Terran? Well, the Viking's a good idea. The only thing that I think Clem could have improved on is having a missile turret. It is such a large main base on that map. And honestly, I think most of the map pool currently has a lot of large mains. But especially that map. And I think if you had a Viking covering 50% and a missile turret covering another 50% with some overlap, I think that would have been good enough. Because again, it's not just the fact that the Warp Prism got in. Maybe you kind of have to admit that that's going to happen no matter what to a degree. But it's the fact that it got in apparently very healthy and was able to siege up in the backside. So, you know, all it really does take is for the Viking to chase it from the get-go or actually fully chase it. Because what might have happened was that it started hitting it, but then the Warp Prism got out of its vision or something, and then the Viking was like, ooh. And then the Warp Prism is at its whole health. Doesn't have any shields. And then 5 Marines, not even, like 2-3 Marines pop out. and then target down the Warp Prism before it sieges up. Like, that is probably what happens more often than not. So the kind of the success point is whether the shields are gone or not. Otherwise, a suicidal Warp Prism might just be guaranteed. But the difference of 4 Zealots being dropped off versus 12 Zealots in total with the Warp in, that's the biggest problem. So it really sucks that whatever happened to leave that Warp Prism to be able to warp in that location is whatever happened. I didn't actually see what did. But probably could have been avoided with the missile turret. Top right, MaxPax. Bottom left, Clem. For the pros, you know, there's a little more to it than just being like, oh, just get, 5 missile turrets, right? So while most people would say, well, 5 is obviously overkill, 500 minerals is even more than another command center that's clearly going to impact their build. I understand that, ZombieGrub. We do. But even for, I think, the pros, that option of adding 1 missile turret is actually kind of, it's a decision. It's not just like, oh, whatever. So already, Clem going for that Viking is a decision. That's something that in a primo build order where he doesn't have to worry about a backstabbing Protoss, like the Warp Prism died earlier, or just not as good of a Protoss, not going to be as active with the Warp Prism. He doesn't get a Viking, his build is cleaner. His push is cleaner. His push is a bit faster, maybe he has a couple more Marines, whatever it is. So, as much as it might seem absurd when we watch Terrans die to maybe what presumably looks like the same thing, like Warp Prism in the main, Warp Prism in the main, Warp Prism in the main. And we're just yelling at the screen like, build missile turrets, love of God. I mean, there's reasons for not doing it. If you ask me, though, I do feel like... Well... I was gonna say that I do feel like Clem is kind of at a point where he could probably just be like, okay, it's not the most beneficial here, but I think I would have to add a missile turret. And I think he'd be so much better off for it. I do, but I'm not totally convinced by it. MaxPax is not a slouch. He's not someone who's winning just because he has a couple of tricks up his sleeve. So if this was someone way below Clem's skill level, well, he's gonna get whatever he wants to ensure that he doesn't get bamboozled. But against someone who is potentially is equally as good as you in the macro game, you need to worry about those seemingly small decisions. But I do feel like, especially after a successful hold against a 4-gate, I think it would be one of those things where Clem should just go ahead and do it. Should just go ahead and even get 2 missile turrets, actually, which again, I think is a much bigger decision for the pros than for us who are already getting supply blocked for the 10th time. But I do think it'd be worth it. In another style of game where maybe things aren't as... not decided, but aren't leaning heavily towards one player, and I could see the absence of everything. But yeah, especially after a defense of a 4-gate. Anyways, that certainly started the comeback there for MaxPax, that Warp Prism getting in. It didn't actually finalize it, though. It did give MaxPax a lead, but Clem got his own, drop into the main, really. He got his own problem in the main, and that almost was very close to just bringing Clem in for the kill. But a little bit of over-dedication without the sufficient reproduction happens to the best. If he had not gone for that Nexus snipe, but instead lifted and left and came back for round number 2 later on, maybe he would have been okay. Just won't know. The Twilight Council opener from MaxPax, which the Reaper was able to scout and survive. And now its next job is to go in and see if it's a 3-gate or 4-gate. 2 plus 2, that's a 4-gate. Keeping this Helen alive as well. These kids in their micro. The Adept live, the Hellion lives, everyone lives. Clem should be, again, maybe predicting the 4-gate. I do feel, and I feel like it's not even a feeling, it's like I'm pretty sure, statistically. MaxPax has stopped doing the 4-gate opener as much as he used to. I'm pretty sure in the last 3 or 4 weeks that I've been casting these two battle against each other, I have been very outspoken about liking that MaxPax is differing up the builds, actually going for like 2-gate third bases. But this week, it seems to be back to the MaxPax that likes a 4-gate. And I'd say that's not necessarily a good thing. I don't think 4-gate is supposed to be used every single time. And, well, last game wasn't a 4-gate, it was a 3-gate, so there's that. But anyways, it is kind of working for MaxPax, so I cannot actually criticize. Let's see if it works right here, right now. So again, presumably,
received.
Clem
Apparently you are doing something
defends
right, Captain.
pretty well. Does he get a missile turret? Does he just say, fuck you? I'm tired of this warp prism bullshit. That's what I'm really interested in. I kind of hope that MaxPax doesn't do damage just so that we get that same scenario. That tank actually got one more shot than I think MaxPax was necessarily hoping for, but still allowed to kind of camp out on the main base. Tank unsieged at a very inopportune time. Now sieges, now has on siege. It's chaos. It is indeed chaos. Oh, and the Raven just got shot down too. Pain. So this 4-gate is already kind of successful. I think MaxPax being able to macro out of this one is very realistic. And it's the type of damage done. The refinery being killed, the tank being killed, the Raven being killed, SCVs having to pull off the line. That type of damage all kind of comes together, right? And then potential for more. The Stalkers are still mostly alive. 3-4 of them have gone down so far. Looks like it took down the Viking that tried to land to support the low ground, which means nothing will take care of the Warp Prism later on. Yeah, all these types of things can add up. So in this type of game, where it's a little more ambiguous, you know, am I actually ahead? Did I defend well enough? I don't think that Clem, you know, doubles down on a Viking. I don't think he gets a missile turret. He's gonna cut those corners, which maybe he should not have cut in the last game. I don't know, cutting corners always sounds like it's supposed to be done, but then he didn't do it, but because it's arguable that he should have done anything. Warp Prism did go down, though, so that is actually probably the best thing about this. Clem might have lost 4 or 5 SCVs at each time, so 9 in total now, but mostly stopping large amount of damage. Just took care of the Warp Prism, so less Stalker warpings for the future, a little bit of time to breathe, and then if they do redouble down, which they most likely will, at least it'll be coming a little bit later on. Medevac did just scoop up units in the presence of an observer, so this is not good. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, right through the needle point. Or the needle head? Whatever the thread goes through the needle. That was perfect. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's like playing Dead by Daylight. And the monster doesn't actually know where you are, but you can see the monster very clearly. Butt clench! Alright, takes care of the supposedly scouting stalker that could not scout it correctly. Okay, these units take care of it. Maybe a stalker will die for it, which is better than nothing, but that was kind of a funny chase scene. During all of the interaction, which I found too entertaining to not look at, Clem has been macroing very hard. Look at this production tab. Everything is on the way. One of the 3rd CCs finally on the way. One was canceled earlier on. And now we have a very good defensive setup from Clem. And he's gonna go for the missile turret! But they also lost the Vikings, so I feel like it is like one or the other at the very least, right? Eddie Iceguard, thank you for the 24 months. A little Marine Scout sees that it's a 4th base. Would love to get into the natural and see if it's a robotics bay or Templar Archives that's researching. Won't be able to see it. Oh, he could have pulled the probe, stop him from seeing that storm. But does not. Unfortunately, much like a single Viking, a single missile turret will not do the trick. And yet again, we have the Warp Prism able to deploy. Although that is a bit more actually is able to respond. The double whammy coming in here. Ooh, beautiful use of Archons. Those did tank a couple of early shots, but still ends in chaos. The tank line was quite good and was actually known by MaxPax too. This observer saw how far the depth of tanks was going to go and still decided to go for that. A little bit of an overreach, for sure, for sure. Perhaps the 2 Archons and their cleverness bolstered his confidence a little bit too much. He was like, yeah, let's fucking go. When actually his Stalkers were still very clumped up, still kind of injured from earlier on, and we're still up against 3 tanks. So that caused a nasty loss of life there. And the Warpers main was cleaned up much better than previously. I think rededicating to a missile turret does still make sense in a game like this, just because I'm personally bothered by the Warperism at this point. It is alive, just injured. And actually, at this injured, a missile turret, 1 missile turret might be enough. I'm not sure. Maybe just barely not enough. The Eye of the Needle, thank you. So this is a very turtly setup. It looks like Clem, not just maybe a little wary from the earlier games against this guy. Like, okay, I'm gonna do the thing, I'm gonna push out, drop, push out, okay, gotcha. It's not been working out. But also that this is a more complicated game. And he knows that MaxPax was able to macro out of it. So just willy-nilly moving across the map because you have a successful defense of the Stalkers, it's not gonna happen so much here. And this move out, I think, is good enough, actually. It was a little sketch, not knowing where MaxPax was going to be setting up his army, if he was actually going to be willing to attack into you or not. It's always a scary part for a Terran's push out, but I do think with a lot of space and micro and concave, Clem is fairly confident in his ability to slowly progress. And MaxPax is doing his best to buy more time and get more units, and he has done that. Okay, but I think both of them trying to get everything together actually was a little upset on both sides. So a lot of Zealot deaths prior to the Warp Prism being kind of recontrolled and going for those storms. And then for Clem, he was so eagerly pushing forward that the Widow Mines weren't thrown immediately, the tanks weren't sieged immediately, so on and so forth. So no one getting their ideal setup right now. But Clem has gotten to now an ideal location and is now ideally set up with his tank siege, his army split, and I'm sure his first target being, EMPing immediately. Things should be going into the proper order. And that is a very scary thing for MaxPax to deal with. Shield Bite Overcharge will be activated, but the Nexus, might still go down if you can't hold on to it. This army push actually is very sketchy. He's going to be coming in from probably the worst angle possible. MaxPax not just going into a concave of the bio, which was beautiful, by the way. The storms really did not do a whole lot, but he actually had moved his army even more into this pillar than one would usually expect. His army was very clumped up, which, I mean, sometimes is the good thing for a Protoss army, but in that case, I think it just made the Zealots even less intimidating. That is a very injured Terran army, and 2 medevacs barely survive, don't even have energy, so maybe that is time to skedaddle. It could have been worse, could have been better. Definitely could have been worse. And 2 Widow Mines are actually being tracked, so nicely done by MaxPax, who will hold on to his 5th base, actually. Has an upgrade lead at this point, and he's starting 3-2 or 3-1 as well. And he's getting to that late game Protoss, which I've always thought that MaxPax was particularly good at being annoying with. Really, really dig in with Disruptors and DTs. Really get that Terran. Get in the Rage Quit. And, well, I mean, of course, the late game Terran's also being set up, so. Before I get too Terran-minded, accusing the Protoss of being the annoying one, I guess I can flip it around for a hot second for you Protoss guys and be like, fucking Terran, just gonna turtle? Get to EMPs and Liberators? So stupid. It is stupid. Actually, I've never minded this part, even when I'm playing Protoss. As long as I don't go into mass battlecruiser, I actually don't really get tilted as the Protoss versus Terran. Even against a 3-gate or a 3-rax that bops me, or a Doom drop that I didn't track, I actually don't get tilted in this matchup. From the Protoss's perspective, but definitely get tilted from the Terran's perspective. Looks like Clem's trying to come in with a concave. It's been red for a while though at this point, you know? It's like Clem's doing like all the baseball signs to his hitter, and then MaxPax is with binoculars like looking and like understanding it. Being like, okay. So that's what you're gonna do? Gotcha. What's really critical about that is that he can pull back into a bit more of a choke prior to the trigger being pulled. So as long as he knows about it, which the observer here is going to see a potential concave once again. Yeah, I think he just got to skedaddle. That is not all of Clem's army. It's supposed to come together with everything else, but it was already so far away that even though Clem was kind of looking maybe for an opportunity to surround, he just was aware that that wasn't going to happen. Still tracking the army. Oh god, and dodging and weaving against those disruptors. Clem is still looking for an offensive engagement. Upgrades are, yeah, oh my god, okay, stop tracking the disruptors. This fucking grass, though. MaxPax versus Clem in the story of fucking tall grass, I guess. That actually ruined Clem's plan, and once again, Vikings will get a lot of cheap shots on top of the Colossus. Only one will live, and back to the reinforcements we go, but, what was about to happen, and maybe Clem was already, like, his eyes got wide and he started to focus more on his surround than his actual army, was that he was supposed to get a surround with this. Now he's turning into a bit of a base trade, but it's MaxPax's 6th versus Clem's 3rd, so base trade might not be good enough for the young Terran. He's going to land his Vikings, take a choke against these Zealots, and just hope the Disruptors do not get a beautiful shot. They still do not have a shot available, and those Stalkers are definitely paper to the bio. So that, plus what looks to be not a successful snipe with the base, but rather a kill on a lot of probes. Not even, only 5 probes, actually. Well, still, at least keeps Clem alive, but not very healthy. He's not just down 30 supply, which almost, like, all of that is in workers, by the way. He is significantly down in that bank. MaxPax just needs to chill. Chill, brah. Give up a base if you have to. It looks like instead of giving up a base, he was hoping to slap down massive sack defense while warping in and building from his robos, which might just work. At least 3 of those structures looking to finish. 1 more disruptor shot's available. Now we got 2 more disruptors on top of that. They're just... all of this attention could eventually result in the disruptors being without a shot, but there's going to be other things that are happening. MaxPax is not nearly as desperate as Clem. This isn't the only battle. MaxPax has already set up a DT strike on top of a planetary that Clem absolutely needs. And Clem does get an EMP on top of the disruptors, has, I guess, lasted longer than the shots. I spoke too soon. But he is losing his planetary. He is unable to replace his army. And he will once again be losing against MaxPax. Man. He just is not having a fun time against the Danish royalty. Which, just to be clear, because apparently some people are very gullible, is not actually a thing. And someone, I can only imagine, also gets fooled by, like, MLMs posted on Reddit. Like, is he actually royalty? Harsum said so, and he would know. I was like, oh, child. Another planetary falls. Perhaps if Clem had played to, like, only 4 bases, he could have recovered once, but he was trying to get a 4th and a 5th back up and running. It didn't work. Chat's good, man. Thank you for the tier 1 sub.